It started with a name I'd never heard, a name he never forgot. Every birthday, every holiday, every time I visited, my grandfather would look me in the eye and call me Sarah. My name is Emily. At first, we thought it was old age, then memory loss, then maybe early onset dementia. But I was only 12 the first time I asked, "Grandpa, why do you always call me Sarah?" And he answered, staring into the distance, "Because that's who you're supposed to be." Emily was 24 now. Her grandfather, William Clay, was dying. He had cancer. Stage 4, hospice care at home. The family gathered, said their quiet goodbyes. But Emily stayed behind, sat beside him, held his frail, wrinkled hand. And once again he whispered, "Sarah." She smiled softly. "It's me, Grandpa, Emily." But he didn't correct himself. He never had. Emily had always been close to her grandfather. He was a quiet man, a retired postmaster, served in the Navy, never missed Sunday service. But he kept his past like a locked drawer. Even her mother, his only daughter, said he'd never spoken much about his childhood. There were no family photos older than the night, no stories of his parents, no siblings, no extended relatives. "He's a good man," her mom would say. "He just prefers the present." The night before he passed, Emily wandered into his study. She sat at his old oak desk. The room smelled of old books and wood polish. In the bottom drawer, she found a worn leather-bound notebook. Inside, neat handwriting, dates, places, and one recurring phrase, "Her name was Sarah. They took her from me." Emily froze, page after page. The same name, the same loss. "Who was she?" she whispered aloud. The next morning, Grandpa William was barely conscious. Emily sat by his bedside. "Grandpa," she whispered, "who was Sarah?" His eyes fluttered open. Tears welled up. "They told me she died." "Who?" "The church, the agency, everyone." "What agency?" He clutched her hand. "I tried to find her. I looked for years. She was just a baby." Emily leaned in closer. "What are you talking about?" He struggled to speak, and then he whispered something that made her blood run cold. "You're hurt." And then he was gone. Emily told her mother what he had said. Her mom went silent, turned pale. He said, "I'm Sarah, Mom. What does that mean?" Her mother stood up. "Nothing." He was confused. "No, he wasn't. He knew. I saw it in his eyes." "Emily, he was dying." "Who is Sarah?" Silence. "Tell me." Her mother finally sat down, hands trembling. "Sarah was your grandfather's first daughter, before me. He had another child?" "She was adopted. Forced adoption. It was the 1950s. He was young, poor. Her mother was sent to one of those homes. The church told him she died." Emily stared. "And you never told me?" "Because I never knew until now." Emily returned to the house. After the funeral, she combed through everything. In the attic, hidden behind an old trunk, she found a shoebox wrapped in twine. Inside, a letter, postmarked, stamped "Return to Sender," addressed Sarah Clay, St. Margaret's Girls' Home, Rockford, Illinois. The letter was unopened. Emily's hands shook as she opened it. "My sweet girl, if this reaches you, I want you to know I never stopped looking. They told me you were gone, but I didn't believe them. I think I saw you once, at a train station. You were with a woman. I called out, but you didn't turn. I know you don't know me, but I'm your father, and I will always be waiting. Love, William." Emily ordered a DNA test the next day. If Sarah had ever tested, she'd be in the system. She waited weeks, no match, until one morning, a new notification appeared. Close relative match, estimated half-sibling. Name, Clara Mitchell. Age, location, Ohio. Emily's heart raced. "Is this her?" she whispered. "Did she survive?" Emily messaged Clara. Hours passed, then a reply. "This is unexpected. I knew I was adopted. I've always wondered about my birth parents." Emily explained everything, sent a picture of Grandpa William. Claire's reply, "I know that face. I saw him once, outside a shelter. I was 5. He gave me a red balloon. My adoptive mother pulled me away." Emily replied, "He never stopped looking." Clara drove to meet her. 2 women, half a century apart in upbringing, but sisters by blood. Clara held the old letter and wept. "They erased him from my file, said my birth parents were unknown, but I always remembered that balloon. He called me by your name, Emily said. My whole life. I thought he was just forgetful. But now I know he saw you in me. I used to dream about a man waiting on a bench, with a coat and a hat. Emily smiled. He was real. As they said goodbye that day, Clara handed Emily a photograph. This was in my adoption folder. I didn't recognize the man back then, but now I think it's your grandfather. Emily stared at it. It was blurry, but it was him, standing outside a church, next to a nun, holding a baby girl. And in the background, a nurse, smiling, wearing a name tag, E. Clay, volunteer program. Emily blinked. Wait, that's my grandmother's maiden name. What? She said they met in college, but this photo was taken in. Clara looked at her. Do you think she knew? Emily stared at the photo. I think she knew everything. Not all secrets die with the dead. Some live in the silence of those who survived them. When Emily found the photo, her grandfather outside the adoption home, a baby in his arms, and her grandmother in the background smiling, she realized the truth wasn't buried with him. It was sitting in a quiet house, sipping tea on a floral couch, pretending she had nothing to do with a child who was never supposed to disappear. Emily hadn't seen her grandmother since the funeral. Eleanor Clay, poised, proud, always in pearls, lived in a tidy cottage on Rosewood Lane. As a child, Emily remembered her as loving but guarded. But now, she saw something different. A woman with decades of silence wrapped neatly around her. Emily walked in and sat across from her. Grandma, she began softly, can I ask you something? Eleanor nodded. Of course, dear. Who is Sarah? Eleanor's hands paused mid-teacup. Porcelain rattled softly. I'm not sure what you mean. You were at St. Margaret's Girls' Home. In 1957, I saw the photo. You were there the day they took her. A beat of silence. Then Eleanor looked away. You shouldn't dig into the past, Emily. Some things are better left in peace. Emily refused to leave. She placed the photograph gently on the table. Eleanor stared at it for a long time. And finally, she exhaled. He wasn't supposed to find her. So you knew? Emily asked, voice shaking. Yes, I was the one who made sure he didn't. Emily's throat tightened. Why? Because I was the one who raised him back from nothing. He was broken when I met him, chasing shadows, writing letters to ghosts, and Sarah, she was a mistake that haunted him. A child from a woman who left him. She didn't leave him. She was forced to give the baby up. He chose that path, Eleanor said sharply, and I chose to protect him from it. Emily leaned in. By pretending she was dead? Eleanor looked her dead in the eyes. Yes, I told the agency to block contact. I told William it was too late, that she was gone. Emily sat stunned. Eleanor went on, voice brittle and precise. They offered me a deal. At the time, the church wanted silence. They didn't want young men showing up asking for children. I was a volunteer. I had access. I arranged things. What things? Emily whispered. I ensured certain files were sealed. A few girls' names never made it to the state registrar. They were adopted out quickly, quietly, clean. You did this to other families? Eleanor flinched. It was the way things were done back then. Emily stood, her voice breaking. You didn't protect him. You punished him. And her. Back home, Emily opened the last box of her grandfather's belongings. At the bottom, a broken photo frame, taped at the edges. Inside, a black and white photo of a baby. On the back, Sarah. And a yellowed envelope, unopened, addressed to Eleanor Clay, private and confidential. Emily opened it. Inside, Eleanor, you told me she died, but I saw her. You lied. I will never forgive you for taking her from me. I needed to know her. I needed my daughter. William. Emily met with Clara at a park the next day. She handed her the letter and the photograph. Clara held it to her chest. He tried. He really tried. Emily nodded, but she stopped him. My grandmother. Clara looked down at the letter. They stole my father from me, then erased me from his world. And now we're left with broken pieces. Clara opened her purse. I've been doing some digging too. About St. Margaret's. She handed Emily a file, photos of newspaper clippings, legal documents, scanned letters from other women. It wasn't just us. There were dozens of children. Hidden adoptions. Unauthorized placements. Most of them were paid for. Emily felt the air shift. This wasn't just cruelty, it was business. Clara tried to request her original birth record again. This time, it had been flagged as missing. The church's official archives were under renovation. Emily contacted a reporter. Tessa Fields, same journalist who had helped with the Ember case. Tessa listened quietly as Emily and Clara laid out everything. "This is systemic," Tessa said. "A cover-up of forced adoptions under religious institutions. We've seen whispers, but nothing this documented." Emily looked at Clara. "If we expose them, they'll come for us." "Then let them," Clara said. "But we won't be quiet anymore." That night, Emily reviewed the old photo again. Her grandfather, the nun, the baby, and Eleanor, standing far back. But now, she noticed something else. Behind Eleanor, a car, partially visible license plate. She enhanced the image with an app. And why? Emily cross-referenced the plate with DMV archives. Ren, the tech contact from past investigations, helped her. The car belonged to a woman named Margaret Ashby, Eleanor's college roommate, a retired lawyer now living in upstate New York. Emily called her. "I'm looking for information about a baby adopted out of St. Margaret's Girls' Home in 1957. Do you remember Eleanor Clay?" A pause. Then, "Oh, sweetheart, if Eleanor's secrets are coming out, I hope you're ready." Emily drove to Ashby's home the next morning. The woman greeted her kindly, offered tea, then led her to a dusty filing cabinet. Inside, dozens of files. Receipts, letters, photos. "We were told to keep records," Margaret said, "in case one day, someone like you came looking." Emily opened the first folder. It had her grandfather's name on it, and beneath it, a check. Dated, signed by Eleanor Clay. Marked, administrative placement fee. Infant transfer, Sarah Clay. Some people keep secrets out of shame. Others keep them for profit. But the worst kind are the ones kept so long, they start to feel like legacy. When Emily held that 1958 check in her hand, the one her grandmother used to pay for Sarah's disappearance, she realized the silence wasn't a mistake. It was a transaction, one that cost a father his daughter, a daughter her name, and a family a lifetime of truth. Margaret Ashby handed Emily a second file. Inside was a thin, handwritten ledger. It listed girls' names, birth dates, placement fees ranging from destination states, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, even Canada. Emily ran her finger down the list. There it was again. Sarah Clay, $300 finalized March. Next to it, status, untraceable. This was a black market adoption ring, Clara whispered. Under the umbrella of the church. Margaret nodded slowly. "We thought we were helping, giving babies to families who wanted them." Emily stared, by hiding them from the ones who already did. Tessa Fields, the investigative journalist, joined them at Margaret's house. Her recorder clicked on. "What made you keep all this?" Margaret leaned back. "Guilt. Back then, we were told it was God's will, clean slates for children. But over time, I knew it was theft. And no one ever found out. We were protected. The church had lawyers, politicians. They called it benevolent rehoming." Emily spoke softly. "My grandfather never stopped looking. He thought she died. So did dozens of others," Margaret said. "We were told to send letters back unopened, marked as undeliverable, even if we had the address." Tessa stared at the ledger. This could blow open everything. 2 days after Tessa's story draft was submitted to her editor, strange things began happening. Emily got locked out of her email. Clara's DNA match on the genealogy site was flagged for inconsistency and removed. Margaret received an anonymous letter on her doorstep. "Leave the past where it belongs. Some names should stay buried." Emily's phone rang at midnight. Blocked number. A man's voice spoke. "Your grandfather wasn't innocent. Who is this? He came looking for her in 72. Do you know what he offered? Money. He was no better than the rest of us." "You're lying. Check the record. St. Margaret's." Then, silence. Emily drove to Margaret's house. They dug through the archive. Found the file! Inside, a handwritten note. W. Clay returned. Offered $500 for child retrieval. Denied. Informed child was placed with no legal pathway for reversal. Emily confronted Clara. "He tried to pay to get you back." Clara read the file in silence. "He was desperate. But does that make him better than the people who sold you?" Clara looked up, eyes brimming. "He didn't sell me. He tried to buy back what had been stolen. You can't understand that kind of grief." "I'm sorry. We all have our ghosts," Clara whispered. "At least now we know who made them." Tessa's editor sent back the article with a note. The diocese released a statement denying everything. Said Margaret Ashby is mentally unwell and a disgraced former volunteer. Emily's heart sank. They're discrediting her before the story even breaks. That's what they always do, Margaret said. Erasure is what they're best at. Clara added, then we bring more voices, more mothers, more children. Through anonymous forums, Emily and Clara connected with others who had similar experiences. A woman named Joanne found out she was sold at birth in exchange for donations to the church. A man named Thomas tracked down his birth mother only to discover she died thinking he was stillborn. A third, Mary Ellen, had the exact same hospital code as Clara. Tessa recorded their stories. A pattern emerged. St. Margaret's was a hub, a well-oiled, quiet machine that extracted babies from shame and delivered them into silence. And now, it was about to be exposed. The story went live at 6 a.m. The price of silence inside the hidden network of religious baby theft, it exploded. Hashtags trended, or erased sons, silent mothers. Unholy adoptions. Emily's inbox flooded. News vans parked outside her home. Clara's story was featured on national TV. But that night, as Emily returned home, she found her front door cracked open. Inside, nothing was missing, except one thing, her grandfather's journal, the one where he wrote Sarah's name over and over again. And on her kitchen counter, a photo of her as a baby, with a note scrawled across the back. You were never supposed to find her. They say when something is stolen from you, you grieve, you heal, you move on. But what if they steal the story too? What if they take the person and erase the memory of them ever existing? What's left then? For Emily Clay, what was left was a photo she never took, a journal that vanished, and a note left by someone who didn't want Sarah found. The photo was worn, creased at the edges. A baby, maybe a year old, wearing a yellow dress. Eyes familiar, chin tilted, nose, her grandfather's. On the back, you were never supposed to find her. Emily's hands trembled. She rushed through the house. Nothing stolen. No signs of forced entry. Only the missing journal. She called Clara. Someone's been in my house. What? They left a photo, a baby, and a warning. Do you recognize the child? I don't have to, Emily said. I think it's Sarah. Clara contacted an archivist who specialized in lost adoption records, Judith Leem, a woman in her 70s who used to be a registrar for state records. They met her in a small library outside of Chicago. Judith laid out file after file. You're not the first ones to come looking. Some records were never digital. Some were lost in fire, if you believe that story. Clara handed her the photo. Judith frowned. This looks like an ID issue. See that number on the bottom right corner? She pointed to faded ink. That's a hospital code. Rockford, 1958. It's from St. Margaret's infant intake. Emily leaned in. Can you trace it? Maybe. But if you're right, someone already tried to make sure no one could. Judith uncovered something chilling. There's a gap in Sarah Clay's hospital log. Her birth is registered, then nothing. No transfer, no death, just a void, Clara added, like she was lifted off the page. Exactly, but I did find something in the 1959 intake report. She slid forward a photo of another infant girl, mismatched name, different ID, but same face. They relabeled her, changed her intake name, gave her a new birth certificate under a different identity. Emily gasped. They erased Sarah and gave her a new life? Not just Sarah, Judith said. At least 12 girls that year. Tessa, the journalist, met them again with something unexpected. I got in touch with a retired nurse who worked at St. Margaret's. She wouldn't go on record, but she agreed to speak. She played the tape. They told us not to ask questions. Some babies left through the front, others through the back, after hours. Those ones never got baptism certificates. We knew what that meant. Did you ever see names changed? Yes? I helped relabel the Bassinet cards myself. I knew it was wrong, but they threatened us with excommunication if we spoke. Emily closed her eyes. How many Sarahs did they erase? They tracked down a state record for a girl with matching features to Sarah's baby photo. Name, Rebecca Alden. Born March 1958. Adopted. No parental information disclosed. Emily and Clara requested a contact through the DNA database. Rebecca responded a day later. Message. This is unexpected, but I've always wondered who I really was. They arranged to meet at a cafe in a neutral town. When Rebecca walked in, Clara stopped breathing. It was her half-sister, the one who never knew. Rebecca sat down, clutching a folder. I don't know if I'm who you think I am, but I've never looked to like my adoptive parents. I never felt like I belonged. Emily opened her phone, showed her the photo. Rebecca gasped. That photo, it's in my childhood album. My adoptive mother told me it was me at the church before I was placed by angels. Clara looked at her. Your name was Sarah. Rebecca's hands shook. I always hated the name Rebecca. I don't know why. Emily smiled gently. Maybe because it was never yours. Rebecca agreed to visit the cemetery with them. They stood at their grandfather's grave. She placed the photo on the headstone. He called you by name until the day he died, Emily said. He never stopped hoping. Tears fell freely. I wish I had known him. He knew you, Clara said. That counts for something. Just then, Emily's phone buzzed. An unknown number. She stepped aside and answered. A voice, calm, familiar. You've gone too far, Miss Clay. Who is this? You've uncovered names that were paid to be forgotten. If you don't stop, you won't like what gets erased next. That night, Emily returned home to find an envelope taped to her door. Inside, a photograph from her own childhood, her third birthday, her grandfather holding her, and someone cut out of the frame. On the back, there's one more name you haven't found yet. Look closer. And beneath that, a receipt, dated from St. Margaret's Archives, Retrieval Unit. Signed by E. Clay. Some endings aren't peaceful. Some don't wrap with closure or comfort. They don't fade to black with soft music and last hugs. Some endings begin with a lie so deep that uncovering it means questioning everything, even your own name. The photo was from Emily's third birthday. She remembered that day. The cake, the confetti, her grandfather holding her, laughing. But the photo she now held in her hand had someone cut out of it. Literally, a jagged gap where another figure once stood. On the back, there's one more name you haven't found yet. Look closer. And beneath it, a receipt from St. Margaret's Archives Retrieval Unit, signed by E. Clay, her grandmother. That night, Emily stared at the ceiling. Her grandfather had always been gentle, loving, especially with her. But now, she began to wonder, who took that photo? Why was someone erased from it? She dug through old boxes, old baby albums, photos, milestones, and something started to feel there were no newborn photos. No hospital bracelet, no baby book, just pictures beginning at 1 year old. She ordered another DNA test. This time she checked compare with known relatives. When results came in, her stomach twisted. No genetic match with either of her listed parents. Partial match with Sarah Clay, Rebecca Alden. No, Emily whispered. No, no, no. She went to her mother's house, sat at the kitchen table, placed the results in front of her. Am I adopted? Her mother's eyes filled instantly. Emily, don't lie to me. A long pause. Then, you were left on our doorstep. What? A woman. One night, she rang the bell and ran. You were in a blanket with a note. No name, no ID, just the words, she belongs to the Clays now. Why didn't you tell me? Because your grandmother made it clear we don't ask about things left behind. Emily stood up. So you raised me like a mystery. No, her mother said through tears. We raised you like a miracle. Emily met again with Judith, the retired archivist. Someone left me, Emily said, and told my family I belonged. Do you still have that receipt? Judith asked. Emily handed it over. Judith pulled out a dusty, locked file box. Inside, one manila folder. E. Clay, confidential retrieval, infant case. Inside, a blank adoption form, a faded photo of a baby, and a note that read, reassignment authorized per family discretion. Transfer identity to Emily Clay. Archive original, no birth certificate, no mother's name, just the reassignment. Emily returned to her grandmother's house. Eleanor sat in a chair, older, thinner, her words fewer now. Emily placed the photo in her lap. Who was I before Emily Clay? Eleanor looked at her long and hard. A reminder. Of what? Of what we take when we think we know better than God. Was I Sarah's daughter? Eleanor nodded slowly. She was only 15. She came back, pregnant, alone. We told her she had no right. But your grandfather, he held you, called you light. Emily's throat tightened. You stole me. No, Eleanor said softly. We saved you from a girl the world never wanted to see again. And then you made her disappear. Eleanor said nothing, just looked away. Tessa ran the final story. The Clay cover-up, how a family erased a daughter, then claimed her grandchild. It spread like wildfire. Eleanor Clay's silence was documented. Clara and Rebecca were acknowledged as survivors of institutional erasure. And Emily, she became a voice for the children raised in shadows. Weeks later, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a single page, typed, "Careful," to the girl I called Sarah. If you're reading this, you found more than I ever could. I spent my life searching, writing letters, leaving clues, hoping someday, somehow, you'd know you were never forgotten, not for a second. I loved you from the first time I held you. And even when they told me to stop asking, I couldn't. Because love doesn't erase, it remembers. Always, Grandpa. Today, Emily goes by. Emily Grace Clay. She carries every name she was given, every name that was taken, every name she unearthed. She still visits her grandfather's grave, still calls him Grandpa. Because despite everything, he was the only one who tried. As for Sarah, Rebecca, Clara, they're not just names anymore. They're voices, sisters, stories that finally got told. What if the wrong name you were called was the only clue you ever had to find your true self? Moral reflection. Names carry more than letters. They carry legacy. They carry loss. And sometimes, when spoken enough, they carry people back home. What did this final chapter teach you about identity, truth, and the power of remembering what others tried to erase? Share your thoughts in the comments.